Hello and welcome back to Tactical Preview. Bit of a dampener on this one. Not the usual sort of happy-go-lucky tactical preview. Not that you usually get that anyway. We're not that energetic on this show, but yeah, we promised to have the same sort of analytical view. There just might not be the same happiness and energy. Obviously, we're going to look ahead to the Spurs game. We're going to head to how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer saves his job. Does he stay with his tried and trusted lineup? Does he deviate from it? Is it sort of last chance saloon? All that to come, and I'll introduce all the guests straight after this.
Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
There we have it. Much like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we've gone for an unchanged lineup this week in the tactical review. Alan, Abdul, Stu, always a pleasure. Great to have you boys on. Just before we start, join in the comments. I'll mute you. I think there's a bit of a backlog. Yeah, there we go. Get in, beat in the traffic to listen to you all tonight. Appreciate you joining us, John. But yeah, we'll have a quick talk over the Liverpool result. We don't want to talk about it too much, but Alan, obviously I'll come to you first. Ex-Man United player. You can give us a unique insight into this. When you were at Manchester United, would a manager have survived a 5-0 loss to Liverpool?
Well, it was we didn't see the best of times when I were there, to be honest with you, Jay. I arrived in 1986, that seems a long time ago now. Fergie just joined. And we'd won the FA Cup in 1985, but we was on this real barren run of chasing the title. And it took him a while. It took three seasons, 3.5 seasons to capture an FA Cup. And then took him till the 1992-93 season to deliver the Premier League. So at a crucial time in Sir Alex's tenure, he got some support, he got some backing. Whether Ollie will get the same or not, I think we're in different times now, we're in different cultures. United should be challenging, really. They should be at the top of the game. We expect that, the fans demand that. So I think he's really under pressure, as we'll go on to discuss this evening. Is it make or break for him? It's hard to say. If it is make, he's got to find some form and some wins from somewhere. As we've been speaking about for a couple of weeks, we've got a lot of tough fixtures approaching. Not started off very well with the demolition, unfortunately, last Sunday, and going into this week now. Tough game away at Tottenham, a difficult, tricky tie in the Champions League, and then the Manchester derby the weekend after. So yeah, some interesting times coming. Crisis, I would say. Everything just seems all over the shop at the moment. The fans are turning. The media are on everybody's backs. Ollie's under incredible pressure. The players are squabbling. There just doesn't seem to be. I likened it to organised chaos. That's how it seems to be at the moment. What do you do? Good question. That's down to the manager. He's got to try and sort this and try and find a result from somewhere on Saturday. I think as we stand at the moment, Jay, I think Ollie will take a point at Tottenham. I don't think he has to win there. I think he'd be happy with picking a point up and trying to get something in the Champions League and then, focusing in everything down to the Manchester derby. If we lose to Spurs, I don't know that the social media is going to explode. The pressure is going to be through the roof, and whether he's got the backing to stay in his job, who knows? We'll have to wait and see at about 8 o'clock on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be an interesting weekend, whatever happens. But I'll come to you, Abdul. Obviously, we've not spoken since the Liverpool game. We'll keep this brief because I imagine you could fill the hour just talking about what went wrong on Sunday. And as much as we'd like to listen to that, I don't think Ben would be too happy. But listen, Sunday seemed like a culmination of 3 years worth of underlying errors. But what did you pick out specifically that really, really hit the fan against Sunday or on Sunday? And is there any possibility that Solskjaer can recover from those errors?
I'll try to keep it as brief as I can, but basically, Ollie is in a very sticky situation because in order for him to solve the problems that we have right now, he will have to drop all United fans' favorites and the one and only Cristiano Ronaldo. There is no two ways about it. There's just no two ways about it. He can't get them to press organizedly. And that's not only on coaching, that's also on players, the type of players he has, right? So you have Bruno Fernandes, who presses like a mad dog aimlessly. And then you have Greenwood, who's center forward in his mind, so he doesn't do winger duties. And then you have Rashford, who is in between. He's happy to play on the wing, but he's also a very striker tendency guy. He wants to run off the shoulder and stay high up, you know? So you have the combination of these four guys who their mind is so forward that they forget the midfield and leave the midfield in an ocean alone. Now, whether you put Fred and McTominay that saved Ollie his job so many times, or you put Matic, or you put Donny, or you put Pogba, or you put whatever the combination is, they're not going to survive, right? And then if these guys get past easy, then you have your back four exposed, like I've said before. And even if you had all four great center backs of the old times and the all-time best fullbacks, as long as they're exposed, they will concede. It's a team effort. Fans have to recognize that it's a team effort. Shaw and Maguire, yes, their performances haven't been the best in the last few games, but they're not culpable for the goals we've conceded. It's the structure as a whole. It's the team being compact that exposed them so much that they had no way to cover grounds. So that's all I'm going to say.
Difficult one, isn't it? Yeah. Definitely. Well, I'll ask you sort of a two-added question. Brown Knight's got a question for you, and does parking the bus work? And I suppose I'll add a question onto that as well. Because it's not been a massively changed side from the sides that have played Liverpool in the past, and this wasn't by any means a vintage Liverpool performance. So how has it taken us this long to get battered in this manner by a team of Liverpool's quality?
So I've always talked about how Ollie knows how to set up in the big games, and he has a specific plan. But what people will hate me for this, it's not like, again, I'm not saying Ronaldo is the reason, but the combination of the four forwards that we have don't work together. If you watch the performances back, City in March and Anfield in January, you will see that we've remained in a block. We made it so difficult for Liverpool to create, and they pushed so much forward that there was so much open space for us that we were able to counter on them and cause them a lot of trouble. But what's the key in all of it is that we were in a compact block. Whether in a mid block, in a low block, in a high block, we were a block. That's the point, Especially, for example, the City at Etihad when we played and stopped their winning run. Rashford followed instructions to the letter. He completely canceled out Cancelo by marking him. He forgot about his tendencies to be, I want to be high up and run off the shoulder, and he stuck to his job, right? And then you had Martial, who stuck to his job, which is dropping off because Bruno Fernandes is being marked and helping up build up, And then you had on the other side who? Daniel James, the guy that everyone laughed at because of his end product. But Daniel James, out of all our forwards, have the best instincts on awareness, on where he is on the pitch, who he needs to mark, when he needs to go forward, and when he needs to go backwards. Rashford doesn't have that. Greenwood doesn't have that. They have technical qualities that are better than Daniel James, but they don't have the awareness like him. He's very mature for his age. Unfortunately, our forwards are not. All their thinking is forward. They're being cultivated as strikers anyway. Like Greenwood in the academy, he was a striker. Rashford in the academy was a striker, wasn't a left winger really. So you have to have a mature team, two, a team that works in a block together, right? And three, the right players in the right positions for filling the right jobs, right? I mean, Ollie can try night and day to tell them, press together. You need to move out together. But the players' instincts are not even there because that's not the right position for them. Especially someone like Greenwood, right? Especially the combination of Cristiano Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes, because they're polar opposites. One doesn't really press, and the other presses like a dog, you know? So it's getting the right combination, maintaining a block, right? And putting the right players with the right instincts in the right positions.
Fair enough. Like, I can't argue with any of that. We've got a lot of comments coming in about Ollie and how we save his job. We will come to those later, but so keep getting them in, and we'll get you involved. But Stu, it's good to have you back on the show. Obviously, we missed you on Uncut. I've not really got your reaction to the game. Obviously, I understand you're going to be devastated, so I'll ask you more of an analytical sort of view to it. What went wrong? What else went wrong that you can pinpoint? Because I don't think a lot went right, did it?
No, well, we pretty much said actually on the show last Thursday that we felt that if he played with Greenwood and Aaron Wan-Bissaka would be exposed, and it was proven. We felt that, and we did take the kind of view, and Abdel's kind of touched on it really, because all four of us, if you remember, took the view that it probably wasn't a game for Ronaldo to start, although we knew he would. It probably wasn't a game for Ronaldo to start. It was a better game for Cavani due to the fact of pressing. And we felt that a front three of Sancho, Cavani and Rashford would have been a better fit for the team all around. And one of the reasons for that was Bruno's, as Abdel says, Bruno pops around and hops around like an Energizer bunny, and he will press by himself. So we go from right to left, left to right, etc. But what he doesn't do, he never sits into the 10 or 15 yards back where we need him, when we're at possession, where we're desperate for a player to sit. And when you've got players that not necessarily cute footballers, because I think you're right, actually, James. I don't think it was any vintage Liverpool performance. But what you have in that middle, Jordan Henderson's a competent footballer. He's not a world beater by any chance. James Milner, he's a competent footballer. Naby Keita's just starting to demonstrate his capabilities within that squad. And then the front three take care of themselves, don't they? We always knew that Jota is just a pain in the arse to us. He really is. And then Salah at the moment. And this is sometimes where it's either a player issue or it's a management issue or the analytics department. We all know that right now, currently, Salah is probably playing the best football of his career. He's in that window where everything is going right, and we didn't pay any attention to him at all. And somebody made a point on Twitter, which is a really good point, and I accept his viewpoint, but we don't have the players to do a man marking role on any particular player, whoever that may well be in the opposition. We don't have that under Herrera anymore. Alan will remember this a few years back when Phil Neville destroyed Reyes at Arsenal, who again was in that purple patch when we beat them 2-0. I think it was in the cup, wasn't it, Al? I remember. We don't have that type of player. So everything Abdel and Alan have been talking about is absolutely correct. It really does start at the top of the field, not at the bottom of the field, where we're all talking about saying, well, Maguire had a bad game, Shaw had a bad game. Yeah, they were caught out of position a couple of times, but that's just life. That's football. Alan will tell you this. He's played at the highest level. He knows he'd have been caught out of position himself on a number of occasions. But it starts on the top. And unfortunately, the fan base can't accept it. I think that's the best way to describe it. The fan base can't accept it. The fan base can't accept that. Yes, Ronaldo's great for this last-minute goal or this one-touch, one goal, as I used to call it back when I was coming through the ranks, and he doesn't offer that workload. So the problems were that. So I think Alan and Abdel had already described what the issues were. Looking ahead to Saturday, I'm going to say it now because I think we need to get it out of the way. It's not going to matter to the fan base what Ollie does on Saturday, unfortunately. Whether he gets a victory or we get a draw or we lose, it will have very little effect on the bulk of the fan base. And one other thing, and I think Alan made a real poignant point when he spoke earlier. When Alan joined the club in '86, we were going through a run of I think under Atkinson we hadn't won in 15 games, had we, or something like that. I think there was a load of draws, a load of losses in there. We were always the second relation, the poor relation to Liverpool through the 80s. We were getting beaten regularly. You know, there were times where we looked good in games. I mean, I've stood in the Kop watching Man United in '88, and we went 1-0 up after 27 seconds. Good old Robbo, absolutely brilliant left foot strike. Before you know it, you're 3-1 down. Because Alan, you know, he knew what the Kop is like. You knew against, you know, you knew what you had to do. And I don't know where it is, whether it's the players or whether it's the coaches or whether it's Ollie. And I've been a big Ollie favourite, James, as you know. But even I can't defend what happened Sunday. But can you defend?
Go on. It's both of them.
Yeah,
it's the player profiles and their combinations, an unbalanced squad, and the coaching.
Yeah.
Right. So the coaching is responsible for putting out a team that's compatible with each other. Right. And secondly, they're also the players' lack of maturity on the field makes them make stupid mistakes, even though the obvious is there.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's kind of both of them goes hand in hand together.
Yeah.
You know.
And I was just going to finish off by saying we will know, and again, I'm really jumping on the back of what Alan said. We'll know Saturday evening what the players think, really. But I don't think it's going to matter to the fan base. It's such a shame. But yeah, so yeah, I think we kind of covered it.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, listen, I don't want to dawdle on the game. It's giving me devilish flashbacks, and it was only a couple of days ago. So we'll move to post match now. I'll start this segment off by bringing up a comment from Andy Mitten today. Obviously, a very, very reliable journalist when it comes to Manchester United, generally speaking. And he said that the board is still behind Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I don't know the word he used. I don't know if it's full back in, but I don't think the sack is actually as imminent as we thought. Obviously, we know he's got these 3 games at least. He could possibly have longer. So that brings into the conversation. I'll bring in some of these comments because they lead me on nicely. There's about player leaks after the game. A lot of players came out. There's a lot of stuff not the players came out. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff in the media saying that he sort of lost the players. The players were complaining about him, his coaching methods, this, that, and the other. There's also comments about the changing room getting toxic. It did feel like that. It felt like sort of the big when Mourinho started to come down. It's not at the end of Mourinho's tether yet in terms of how toxic it was, but it's getting toxic nonetheless. So I'll come to you, Alan. Given that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer probably does have at least a few games to save his job, it's all well and good getting the tactics right, but how does he get that dressing room back on his side? Because it really does feel like it seems to have gone too far now.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a tough question. I think once you lose the trust of players, and what a powerful word trust is, isn't it? You need trust in all teams, and that is not just trusting in Ollie, but trusting in yourself as well. Trusting that you've got the knowledge and understanding during your working week of what your roles and responsibilities are on Sunday or Saturday, whenever you're playing. I think what worries me most of all is United just seem to be all over the place at the moment. There's no structure. There's no settled 11, is there? Even now, if you said to somebody, what's our best 11, or even asked Ollie, I'm not too sure he even knows himself. There's players getting left on the bench. I look at Sancho, he's hardly had a kick. And I know you have the argument when you come into a new culture. He started at City as a youngster, went over to Germany, like a few top young players are doing at the moment. And then he's come back over for a monster fee, hasn't he? We paid a lot of money for him. And he's hardly really, he's not hit the ground running, has he, unfortunately? We've got a curious case of Donny van der Beek, hardly gets a look in. I mean, it's just sort of like confusing. You've got Pogba sat on the bench, probably for tactical reasons on Sunday. But, again, but Pogba's supposed to be this world-class World Cup winner, just won the Nations League. And you're thinking, like, you've got Sancho and Pogba sat there like 150 million quid worth of talent, not even starting against, you know, our biggest rivals. And you're thinking like, so something's not quite right here. And then you go into the dressing room after and you're hearing the squabbling. I think Harry Maguire came out and said in his interview, I've come to talk to the press because I have to be here. You know, I thought to myself, like, that's not the right thing to be saying, is it? And I know we get all the apologies and we're going to try harder. And I get all that because there's nothing else you can really say. But when you start hearing that there's arguments and infighting and distrust of the manager, it looks as though there's only one way this is headed, unfortunately. And I think this is going to take a miraculous turnaround. And the only thing I can think that they've not acted on here is if you brought a new manager in, he's coming into a tough run of fixtures. And are they going to delay this until maybe there's a bit of a softer run? I think when Mourinho left United, I'm pretty sure that Ollie's first couple of games are like Huddersfield or Cardiff or, you know, like lower sides. So it makes me wonder whether the board have kind of got a feel on how this is going to play out. And they're just almost like, which is tragic because Ollie's like, from a romanticist perspective, he's unbelievable. And he gave us one of our greatest nights in history. And to see him after the game, he was absolutely distraught, wasn't he? And it's heartbreaking. I felt genuine sympathy for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer after the game on Sunday. He looked absolutely broken. And again, where they turn this round, I mean, Stu and Abdul will probably add to this, but I don't know whether they can, even if Ollie found like a couple of games where he managed to get victories. I'm not sure. This just seems as though it's just on a slow decline at the moment, and it's almost like the writing's on the wall. I would say about 90%.
Fair enough. Well, I'll come to you, Abdul, on a more tactical note then in terms of how he turns it around. Obviously, it's going to be a very difficult job on a personal level, but I'll bring this question in because it is a question for you, and it raises the question I was going to ask quite nicely. Is it possible to play Bruno in a false nine, given that he plays up front anyway, the way that he plays? But more broadly, is there any tactical tweaks that spring to mind that we could resort to turn this round on the pitch?
Well, the first thing is Bruno can't play a false nine. That's the problem. And secondly, if you're putting Bruno as false nine and then you have Mason and Rashford flanking him, what's your midfield trio? Because that's going to decide everything. So that becomes a problem. We don't have really... I mean, you can make a case for Matic, Donny, and Fred, right? But if you're gonna play an energetic team, do you really want Matic to be sitting alone in the middle? So that becomes a problem as well. You know which player that I actually thought can play that false nine role for us, and I liked him to Firmino a lot, even though he is missing some of the aspects that Firmino does. Martial was the glue that glued everything up until the final third. Like, look, I'm not saying Martial is a prolific striker or he's a good striker even. He will never make the runs that Cavani make. He will never be in be in the box like a Ronaldo, like a Cavani, like a Zlatan. But before that build up, progression until the final phase, he was instrumental in a way that I can't describe. So if there's anyone in the United forwards that can play a false nine, it would be Martial. I know people will tell me, but work rate and not work rate. Yes, there are games that Martial looks disinterested and stuff like that, and he has this personality issue with when he's threatened, he really doesn't work hard for his position. But unfortunately, his skill set really glued the attack together. What he could do with the ball, helped us a lot. So Ollie's in a very sticky situation in the sense that he has a lot of players that are undroppable. They have the undroppable status. If you drop them, everybody goes wild. The media goes wild. The fans go. Everyone will attack him, and especially if he doesn't get a result. And now add on top of all of that the pressure he's under and the result that he got, then he's in an impossible situation. So if he drops these players, he has to win the game to justify what he did. If he doesn't, even if he gets a draw, right, then you know what's going to happen. The clueless slag lines and everything is going to go against him. But the right decision is to drop these players, and he needs to do that. So I don't know how he's going to do it. Like, he will literally have to upset Ronaldo, Bruno, maybe, and maybe a Rashford or a Greenwood, one of them. And these are three big names, or at least one of them is a fan favorite and two big names, So this is his only way out, and he has to take that risk. Like, I want him, if he's leaving, at least leave on a high note, leave with, I did something brave and I got a result, even though I went out anyway. Because like Alan was saying, he was completely shattered at the end of that game on Sunday. He looked like he didn't know what to do. Like he didn't know how it come to this. You know what I mean? And how it came to that is because like I said, many players that are undroppable, right? Many players that don't complement each other and have tendencies that hurt us as a team, And secondly, the old solutions that he used to go back for to help him are not working anymore because the profiles changed, So he will need to find a solution, and the solution is there, but it's a very hard one because he will, like I said earlier, he will drop all the big names. And do they trust him? Do they not trust him? I read Andy Mitten's article and saying, this is his squad, these are his boys. They still, on a personal level, like him and love him and love working with him, but they have doubts, and like even the British core, the ones that have his back, he said, I don't know if it's true or not, he said they have doubts. So imagine the team that you're in charge of have doubts about you, and you say to the biggest one of them, you're sitting on the bench. They'll go crazy, all of them. Like, they'll be like, this guy lost it, So it's like, it's in a very, like, almost an impossible situation.
Yeah. Well, Stu, I'll come to you then, Stu. Speaking of impossible situations, I suppose the premise of this video is sort of, does he stick from the tried and trusted, or does he change? Now, I suppose the key in that, in terms of change and the tried and trusted, is in that midfield. Obviously, Scott McTominay and Fred have sort of walked him through this bad patch of form, whether it's their fault or not. I don't think it actually was against Liverpool. But for you, obviously, I'll preface this by saying it's a very difficult situation because Donny van der Beek clearly doesn't like Solskjaer. The question will be whether he will actually try when he's actually picked by Solskjaer. What motivation has he got to try and keep his job? But is it time for change? Not necessarily just in the midfield, but across the team, given that a lot of these fringe players, with how they've been treated over the season, probably aren't Ollie's biggest fans right now.
There's a couple of things, really. Players have got to look at themselves as individuals. Are they working as hard as they can? Are they wanting to work as hard as they can, I suppose, more importantly? And does playing for Manchester United actually mean anything to these guys? No, look, you can take that one or two ways. You can look at the mercenary factor. They're all only interested in money, fame. Or you can look at the footballer's perspective, where they want to play at the very, very highest level for the greatest club on the planet. The thing is, a lot of us fans, diehard fans, legacy fans, new fans, aren't really sure. And whether that's got anything to do with Ollie or not, I don't know. A lot of players are now driven by their agents. They're agent driven. They're not driven by themselves. And Alan can answer this more than anything. When Alan was a young lad joining Manchester United at 86, he was there to make it as a professional footballer, and he was giving absolutely everything, day in, day out, week in, week out, to make it as a professional footballer. The money was completely different. If you did have an agent, Alan, I don't know. He was looking at your best interests. When you've got agents commanding fees in excess of 10 million, they're looking out for their interests as well, not just the players. And this is where I'm really conflicted as a fan and as a player, because to pull on the red shirt for any one of us, as Alan's done it, so he knows what I mean. But for me, James Abdel, to pull on that red shirt would be immense pride. You know, something we could only ever dream of. And I think, unfortunately, these players are taking it for granted. And in football, and Abdel's absolutely right, there are 3 or 4 players that are or appear to be, I'm going to go appear to be undroppable in our squad. We know who those are. But what happens with that is consistency. You have a real consistency problem. You have a motivational issue from a personal point of view, because whatever you do in training during the week, you know your name's on that team sheet. Now, when I was playing, I used to be as absolute white as a ghost until the team was read out. I was panicking. I was a nervous wreck as to whether or not I'd made it. Had I done enough in the week? Had I done enough at the previous match to warrant my position? Luckily for me, 9 out of 10 times I was playing. But even though I knew I was playing, it still gave me that fear. And the lads used to laugh at me. But I could never, ever get complacent, because if I ever got complacent, my game would drop. My game would dip. My passing wouldn't be as crisp. My vision wouldn't be there. My aggression in the tackle wasn't there, and things of that nature. So I always did the very, very best I could and trained as hard as I could. And if I didn't make it on a Saturday afternoon, it's my own fault. I've only got myself to blame. The problem is with someone like Donny, someone like Bailly, you know, real good top professionals. They're working week in and week out, and to not get a chance is a bit of an issue. Again, Alan's been at the highest level, so he'll know it can knock your confidence as a footballer if you're giving absolutely everything. And he's seeing dross on a Saturday afternoon. You're almost, and I need to choose my words carefully here, but you're almost praying for a bit of a niggle on your direct competitor, aren't you, Al? I mean, you must have done it. You're almost praying that he gets a bit of a niggle, or he gets sent off, or he does something stupid that you can drag him out and take his place. Now, when players or when the press comes out and they talk about leaks, look, players fight anyway in training. They get on each other's back. They have a go. If you're in a team where you're able to accept mediocrity, you want to be somewhere else. You don't want to be in that squad of players, because it won't bring the best out of you, and it won't bring the best out of the coaches and the managers. It doesn't bring the best out of the fans. You need a team where if you've made a mistake, you're looking over your shoulder. Although you don't need telling, you've got fucking four pairs of fucking mouths bellowing at you. You absolute clown. What are you doing? You know better than that. You know, Alan told you a story about Steve Bruce when he was, when he was playing right back in a Resis game. Alan will tell you, even at training, if you put a misplaced pass out, Bruce would fucking grab you by the fucking throat, and virtually, that's all that has gone out the game nowadays. They're soft. People are soft. Players are soft. Fans are soft in a way, because they're not, they haven't got the backbone to stick. Sometimes it's always got to be twist, but sometimes you've really got to stick, and you've got to, I talk about it all the time, know your colours to the mast. But look, Ollie, and we all know this, and Abdel's right, Alan's right, Ollie is in an absolute no-win situation. He's got 0 to lose on Saturday, and I'm with Abdel, and I think he needs to make 3 or 4, maybe 5 changes to the side and bring in a Donny. I'm not saying what he should do, but bring in a Donny, bring Sancho back in, bring Matic back in, maybe try a midfield pair with Donny and Matic again, and bring, maybe drop Bruno, maybe take that stick and drop it. Well, Bruno doesn't play every match for Portugal. Portugal don't think that Bruno and Ronaldo can play in the same side. Put in Cavani. I don't know if Martial's fit. We'll have to wait and see, but he's got to do something. And if I was him, Monday morning, I'd have ripped the fucking heads off every single one of those players, told them they're not good enough to wipe the floor of the dressing room, let alone put the shirt on. I don't give a fuck whether you're worth 100 million quid. You're not playing like you're worth 100 million quid. you're too interested in what you're doing with your hair and stuff of that nature. So,
Can I make a comment here, Stu?
no, it's all right. I was just on a rant, Abdel. You probably stopped
Yeah. It's just a small comment. It's something that I read today, and it's actually funny. I saw a couple of accounts fighting each other about how United are not run properly, which I agree with, and how they sell to the fans the process, project, Man United DNA, and all that stuff, the Fergie way. And I think that there's a wrong association with these words, right? And the wrong association is that when people say Man United's DNA, you got to have the United DNA as a player. They don't mean a football style. They mean an attitude. You know, the Man United way or the Man United DNA isn't a football philosophy. It's an attitude of playing. So when Sir Alex Ferguson used to say it, when Ollie is saying it pretty much every press conference, he does not mean this is the United way of playing style, but what the players give on the pitch, the never say die attitude, the I will risk all for the shirt and on all that jazz. And sad to say, like Stu was saying right now, you don't have that strong affiliation with the club anymore. It's either you have a player who's responsible, who's going to give it his all because it's his job, or you don't have that player. Like the only players you can probably associate that with is someone like Marcus Rashford, maybe Greenwood. Like I haven't seen it much from Greenwood, but from someone like Marcus Rashford, for example, he's probably the only example out there that you would say, this guy loves this club and he'll probably play with a broken bone for this club. But that's it. You don't have that many players anymore that do that, you know. And I just wanted to highlight this, because when you say DNA, you don't really say, "Oh, this is Man United's way of playing." Play style is very different. And Man United changed a lot over the years. They didn't have one set of way of playing.
Yeah. Well, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I made a jib on when were we last on, Abdel? I can't remember now.
Like
2 days ago when we were talking about Ollie.
Yeah. And I said a lot of the fan base considered Manchester United was born in 1986 when Fergie arrived. You know, they don't take into account our history, and if they knew our history, they'd understand that our club has had these massive ups and downs. And we're just going through this period of decline at the moment. And look, you know, I always stand by the manager because it's the club I support. I don't support individuals. I support the club. And that's what I'll always be. And that's where I'm getting the stick. I'm getting the stick because I think stability is needed. Excuse me. But as Alan says, he just hasn't. I don't see how he can survive. That's the problem. I wish it would be, but I just don't see how he can survive. And the reason the reason I mention you a lot is because you've got such a knowledge of what it was like in what I class as a proper dressing room for me. It was always people call it old school, but it wasn't. It was a proper dressing room. A dressing room when we were growing up, it was a hard place, wasn't it? It was a tough old place, lonely place. If you weren't performing, it was a lonely place to be. And it was up to you. Only you could play yourself out, your doldrums and the issues that you had. It was only you, by working hard every day, that could get yourself back up to the level if you were falling short. And this is what bothers me with modern day footballers, Al. It worries me. It really does. And if they're not fighting or scrapping on the changing room, there'd be serious questions for me. Whereas, you know, you'd have a pop at somebody, you'd have a pop at a senior pro if he was a problem or he wasn't doing something. It was exposing you. You know, players are exposing each other and they're getting away with it. Getting away with it on the pitch in front of our very eyes. You know, you wouldn't have that.
Maybe, like you say, Stu, that's something that we're lacking at the moment, and that's like character and leadership, isn't it? In the team, I've seen a lot of sort of people mention that we don't play as a team. We play as individuals a lot of the time. Somebody mentioned that's what's really over this last month or so has been pulling Ollie out of it. and that's these individual brilliant moments.
And that's what I was saying earlier, Alan, is that unfortunately I think the key word really is awareness and maturity. Mm-hmm. Our players are not mature and they're not aware, and you can see that in the way that we get exposed at the back post, or we get exposed on the other side of the pitch during a switch of ball. It's because the players we're putting in the positions that they don't have the necessary tendencies for it, because they're not developed and cultivated to play that role. Like for someone like Greenwood, he's a striker. Like initially inside of him, he wants to play as a striker, so he doesn't have the instincts to play as a winger. He improved a little bit like during the end of the season last season in doing the winger duties, but then he regressed back again this season. Like I've mentioned that two shows ago. I was like, the Champions League put out a video of our Villarreal game, and they caught Greenwood. They were just showing the skills of some player, but Greenwood was caught on video. He was strolling around, completely strolling around, and leaving Aaron Wan-Bissaka dealing with two players. That's because he just doesn't know what to do here, and he doesn't have the tendencies. Even if he's told, he forgets it on the pitch, because that's not how he thinks as a player.
Which is, when you look at today's game, it's a massive trait. It's a massive problem with modern day footballers. But back in again, I know we talk about the olden days, but that's where I'm from. That's my era. That's where I was brought up to play football. And I know football's changed, etc. But again, back in the day, if I'm I don't know, an outside right, so to speak, and Al's behind me, Al's shouting at me 99% of the game. Stu, you're in the wrong fucking position again. I've told you 20 times. I need you here. And it's just, and you know something, Abdul? That's not even, you don't have to use your brain for that. That's all Al's doing. He's looking around at what's happening, and he's realised if I'm not 25 yards back, he's exposed by two players potentially. So he's just dragging me back, and he's talking to me all the time. Or sometimes even I'm turning around and saying, where do you want me?
The responsibility falls on both the players and the coaches. So if the coach on the sideline is seeing that Greenwood is strolling around, he should be screaming at him, telling him, what the hell are you doing? Right? Absolutely. That's one. Secondly, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who plays behind him, and I know he's not a communicator. He's a very quiet person. You can just tell by the way he carries himself. If he's getting exposed versus two players all the time, and he's seeing Greenwood strolling around all the time, and he's like, he has to grab Greenwood and tell him, hey, look, I am getting exposed here. I'm getting turned to shreds because you're not helping me. Two people are attacking me at the same time, and I can't mark two people. So the responsibility falls on both, but bigger on the coaches, because they're the ones who are like looking at the game from the sideline and analyzing it. So they should say something to the players. Now, are they saying? Are they not saying? We really can't verify that, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We can't know. But I just wanted to address someone called Ronan in the comments here, and he's saying Ollie is a coward because he's just not playing the players that he wants him to play. Ollie's not a coward. Ollie's in a position where he's trying to fill holes in his team that he can't fill, right? And at the same time, he has players that he can't drop. So he's trying to find a solution by not dropping the undroppable players and filling the holes in the team. And he's failing at both because it's impossible at this point. It's impossible to do both. It's either you drop the players that have undroppable status, or you fill the holes in the team by dropping the players that have undroppable status. So it's kind of, he's in an impossible situation. And this goes back to Ronaldo signing again. And I'm going to keep saying it, I'm not putting the issue on him only, but he exaggerated the issues. Now, he made Ollie's job 10 times harder filling those holes in the squad, and he's not a coward. McFred are the only pivot that balance us. Donny and Matic won't balance.
No, it won't balance us. You're absolutely right.
Like they will give us technical ability in possession a little bit, but out of possession, they will not balance us at all.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So him playing them is not cowardly. Him playing them is him trying to find a solution for a gap in midfield, and without having to be too defensive. And that's even the crazy thing about it, is him playing McFred is not him trying to be defensive. It's him just trying to fill a gap, and it's not working at the moment because all the forwards don't complement each other and they forget about the midfield. It's a crazy situation.
Long were the days though, when you sometimes would try to play yourself into a position. I only went to play at centre half because I was needed one day and nobody else put their hands up, so I had to go. And I realised I could play there, not because I was big or I was strong, I was good in the air or anything, but just I had a brain and I used it, and I used my eyes, and I grew into that position. I started out as a nipper up front because I was quite quick, but footballers today, and it's a really good point you make, Abdel, and Alan will be able to clarify this a bit more, but footballers today, they think about one position and one position only. They don't think about anywhere else. And I don't know about you, Al, whether right back was always going to be your destiny, but were you always a right back, or was there other areas that you played?
I played all over the place, Stu. I played at centre half as a kid, a bit like Gary Neville-esque in a way. Started off as centre half in the youth teams when I was a first year apprentice, but I played a lot at fullback. I played at left back, reses. Moved to Exeter, played in midfield. So I could shift my hand to a few positions really. So I was quite adaptive in a way. But like you say, I think a lot of youngsters now get coached and trained, don't they, in the kind of the one specialised position, and it doesn't give you an opportunity to have a look at different parts of the field and get a bit of an understanding of what other players go through and where they like the ball played to and stuff like that. And I think that's one of my biggest critiques of Ollie at the moment and Man United. I just feel as though we've not got a team. That's my real worry. I remember Cantona years ago used to say, when a team comes together, it's like an orchestra. Everybody sort of getting the right tune out of everyone. And I remember like one of my old managers, Alan Ball, used to say, he said, generals and foot soldiers can't win wars on their own, but together they might. And I wondered what he meant at the time. But what he was saying is like, you need your little scrappers in midfield who's going to go and get the ball back. You need players who can get on the ball and start things off and play. You need centre-halves who'll put their head in and get hurt and get their eyes cut. You need full-backs who can push up and deliver some good stuff. You need forwards who'll get their heads out into dangerous positions and maybe risk a bang on the head or two. We've just not got that. We've not got that blend as a team at the moment. And I think that's what we're really falling short at.
Thank you, Alan. Because Abdel, I tell you, that's what I bang on about week in and week out. I do. And again, it's an era thing. I get that. It is an era thing, isn't it, Al? We were different, brought up differently. You'd have played with a fucking headband on your head, no messing. Or whatever. Yeah.
I got brought up, luckily enough, under Eric Harrison, who brought the class of 92 through. Eric was just like hard as nails. Ask any of the class of 92, Giggsy, Gary Neville, Scholes. You ask him what Eric Harrison, like he said, frightened to death of him. Never mind Fergie, frightened to death of Eric. Because basically he said, and you did it quickly. That's how it worked with Eric. So...
Yeah, I'm not saying we need to go back. I mean, people might think I'm saying we need to go back to the 80s way of playing. I mean, you can't do that, obviously, but you can bring some of those fundamentals back into it of courage. There isn't courage certainly in our team at the minute. There's no courage on the ball, is there? I don't remember anyone.
There's honour. That for me, there's honour missing. There's pride almost like pride in performance sometimes. United players should be crawling off that pitch after 90 minutes on their hands and knees, and you look at some of them coming off and, even before the games, they're laughing and joking in the tunnel with the opposition team. I know that, all right, it's pre-game, you might be seeing your mates who you kind of know, but was it somebody said sport is war without weapons? It's true. You have to be prepared to go into battle, and I'm just not seeing that with some United players at the moment.
My school coach, Al, he said to me when we were in there, he used to say, and I'm talking at a young age. He said, "Listen, lads, if you guys aren't trudging off that pitch, limping, bleeding, your shirt's ripped or something, you haven't played. You haven't played the game. It means you've not competed somewhere along that line. You've not got in for a tackle. You've missed this. You're scared of this or whatever." And I would always remember it. And my dad, this is weird. He's not alive, unfortunately. But my dad, when I was young, and I said to him, "I need shin pads," and he would kick me in the leg with shin pads on, without shin pads, to tell me what it was like, just to teach me what it was like. So I was never afraid to go in for a tackle because I knew what I was against. You can't do that nowadays. You get locked up for abuse. But I'm just saying. But I just wish, like you said, I just wish that we could show that courage and that pride and that will to just.
Yeah. And it's like, it's just looking at some of the comments. We're not going back to the 80s, the caveman stuff. What you're looking for is a bit of desire, a bit of pride in the badge. That's what I don't care. I don't care if Mickey Mouse and Batman's running the team as long as United are winning. I'm not bothered about that. It's all about Manchester United winning football matches. And at the moment in time, whether Solskjaer will get the opportunity to do that, it's looking highly doubtful. But still be supporting United and hoping they can go and beat Spurs. On Saturday tea. I'll still be hoping United can go to Atalanta and win in the Champions League. Still be hoping we can find something. That's the way it goes. All you're asking for is a bit of desire and courage and character off your players. Mark Twain said it's not about finding character sometimes. That the tough times reveal it. And it's up now to Ollie to try and get some of these players standing up and being counted. Not doing it for Ollie, doing it for Man United. That's what I want to see on Saturday tea.
Amen. Well, sorry, James, it's my fault that.
You've brought me on to the next topic very well then. About 15 minutes ago, I asked the comments sort of what changes they wanted to see against the Spurs game specifically. Obviously, that's the game we came here to talk about sort of 50 minutes later, but got a few comments in. Eric says you keep the same trusted 11, and then John comes in with a completely opposite comment of saying he play Cavani up top, give Greenwood a go. Any players that didn't play last week and had their reputations ruined. So I'll come to you first, Alan, and ask you a similar sort of question. What sort of lineup do you want to see against Spurs? Do we stick with the old reliable, or do we give some other players a chance?
I think that's my worry, Jay. That we've come to a stage now where it's just guesswork, isn't it? And that's my big concern. It's like Ollie's throwing a dice and thinking, we'll bring Sancho in, we'll give Van der Beek, give him a chance. We'll get Matic in there, we'll get this in there, we'll get that in there. And that's my concern. He's the manager. He's got to pick the team for Saturday. He's got to make those decisions. I'm not too sure whether he'll change it too much, but depending on Spurs and how they set up traditionally, I think Spurs are a little bit like Liverpool in a way where they've got a really dangerous front three, like Kane's son. And Moore, if he turns out, I think they can cause quite a lot of havoc. So they're going to have to be watched. And again, that concerns me, Jay, in relation to our back four at the moment. I know Varane started training earlier in the week, hasn't he? So whether he'll get an opportunity to come back and come into that centre half position, we'll have to wait and see. I must admit, I'm not a great fan of Lindelof, to be fair. I think he's decent, he's solid, but I just think he lacks a yard of pace for me, and he worries me at times. He seems to get a little bit lost, and Maguire's not in the best of form at the moment, as he seems to be getting caught out a lot. So that back four is quite worrying. I think Luke Shaw was unbelievable for a spell last season going into the Euros. He was on fire, and I've always got a lot of time for Luke Shaw because of the horrific injury he's come back from. So in relation to character, I'll always have a lot of time for him. But he seems to have just gone on a bit of lull at the moment, whether he's suffering a bit of fatigue after the decent run that we had in the Euros and getting to the final. I'm not sure. Aaron Wan-Bissaka up and down for me. He might have Ethan Laird coming back soon. I know Ethan's gone on loan at the moment, hasn't he? Is he at Swansea City?
He's
getting some decent reviews there, isn't he? Whether he can put Wan-Bissaka under a bit of pressure. Because that's what they need. You need players in your squad, don't you? You're looking over your shoulder all the time and thinking, if I don't perform or go on a run or 2 or 3 bad games, I'm going to get replaced. And that's how it should work. And I think sometimes, Jay, Ollie is quite... he relies on sort of players who are not players well, but still keeps picking them. And I think that's wrong, that, for me. I always think that football should be based on what you're showing in training, what sort of form you have, and you should pick accordingly. It always baffles me how players have 3, 4, 5 bad games on the run, but Solskjaer keeps with them, he sticks with it. And I think that's something that maybe he needs to learn if he wants to sort of save his job. He needs to demonstrate almost that ruthlessness, almost that cold, harsh. You can't afford to mess about at top level football. You know, there's big decisions to be made. And I think that might cost him at the end of the day. That's sticking with reliable players instead of like shaking it up a little bit.
That's complacency, though, isn't it, Al? That's player complacency, that is. You're right. Wan-Bissaka knows he's going to play week in, week out. Shaw pretty much knows he's going to play week in, week out. Maguire, Bruno, they all know they're going to play week in, week out. Yeah. So where is your motivation then? You know, where is the motivation?
And you know why they play week in, week out? Because they hide issues we have tactically and structurally. So we rely a lot on Shaw and Maguire in progression of the ball, because our central midfielders can't progress the ball unless Matic plays. Right. So if you think about it, in all his tenure, Ollie, the positions he usually changes is one of the center backs, and it's not Maguire. Right. Luke Shaw and Aaron Wan-Bissaka play all the time, and Maguire. Then the 2 pivots change all the time, and one of the wingers. And actually, the front 3, Bruno's position is solid. Why? Because Bruno, Maguire, and Shaw, those 3 specifically, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, hide a lot of problems that we have structurally. So Bruno will always create chances for you versus deep blocks, even though your front 3 don't complement each other that well, right? Maguire and Shaw hide the fact that you can't build up well because your central midfielders are not good enough to build up well, right? And your goalkeeper as well. You know,
absolutely.
And your goalkeeper as well cannot help you with his skills on the ball. Like Alisson and Ederson at City and Liverpool, you know, give them an advantage over any team that wants to press them high because they're very comfortable on the ball, right? So these 3 players, especially Shaw, Maguire, and Bruno, hide a lot of deficiencies that we have in the team. And that's why he's reluctant to drop them, even at times where they play badly. And he looks at the bench and is like, but Telles can't progress the ball. Unfortunately, Telles is one of his weaknesses is he can't progress the ball. Yeah. Right. And then you look at Bailly. Bailly is completely erratic. But if I want to change him, I can't drop the captain. You know, so I only drop Lindelof. You know, or now that we have Varane, it will be between Lindelof and Varane. And then Bruno with Van de Beek. Van de Beek needs a team that's good in possession. You know, needs a team that knows how to keep possession well and move the ball about in tight areas, right? And he needed Sancho, a creator, because Van de Beek is not going to create for a forward. Van de Beek is going to find a space and lay it off to a forward. And layoff is different than creation, right? And so when Van de Beek was bought, it didn't make sense because Sancho didn't come. But I think they were counting on Sancho coming in. You know, and that's why they got Van de Beek. So Bruno is kind of the guy that puts a lid on the cracks and say that, you know what, no matter how badly compatible the front 3 are, I will always create chances for you, because he's a very, very high risk, high reward player. And that's why he loses the ball a lot and frustrates people, because as soon as he gets the ball, he thinks of creating. Even if it's an impossible pass, he will try it, you know? And that's the problems where Ollie is stuck, you know. He's stuck with his squad balance. He is stuck with issues on the right hand side with Aaron Wan-Bissaka not being able to build up, but he's very solid defensively. So I need him because the alternative is a very bad person defensively, you know. So the makeup of the squad is really not good, and that's why we go in a bit on coaching, because you can coach specific movements, you know, like drill them so hard that they have to let go a little bit of their habits, you know, and tell them you only move to that position if Lindelof moves this position. You only move into that position if Bruno moves to that position. And if you're not going to build a structure behind the front players that's solid, you can't give them freedom. So you can't have a weak structure behind free players.
Yeah.
It's either they're all structured, or at least the back structure is solid, so the front players can do whatever the hell they want.
And that's where my frustration comes in. Just as a fan, it's player intelligence. It winds me up so much that they can't seem to think and look outside the box. When they're involved in a ever-moving game of football, they know what's happening because they're actually involved in it. They're right in the middle of it, and yet they can't seem to understand, recognize, and have the ability to deal with it. Abdel, you're 100% right, and I can't get my head around it. I just can't.
I mean, like, for example, you have McTominay who hides away from the ball. And when he does that, he puts his right center back and his right back at very tough positions because, okay, I know what I need to do, but you're not there for me to do it. So I'm just going to lump it forward because I don't want to lose it in a very dangerous position. Or he's swarmed so fast before he can even think, so he loses it in a very difficult position. And then you have Fred, who's good on the ball. Fred is not bad on the ball, but he takes erratic decisions, sometimes. Like, he tries to play the right pass, but he plays it in a weird way. Like, I don't even know how to explain Fred a little bit sometimes.
He's not the answer, Abdul, is he? He's not the answer for me.
No. Neither Fred or Scott are the answer. The only good thing about Scott and Fred is out of possession, they will give you all the effort they have. And they will hassle players and annoy them and take the ball off them and all that stuff. And that's why they balance us, because the front players are free, and that's why they're a requirement. Unfortunately, despite their inabilities on the ball, they're a requirement because the front players are free and because we don't have a solid enough structure behind the front players who are free. So it's a big conundrum altogether. So, and this is why I advocate for coaches who are gonna drill this team into specific movements, because unfortunately they are too unbalanced to keep them free. They're too unbalanced to keep them free. Like Zidane, because he's one of the names touted to come replace Ollie. Right? When he walked in on Real Madrid had every position covered, and they're very compatible with each other. And I'm not saying Zidane doesn't have tactics. Zidane has tactics and all that, and he puts in a framework. But that midfield trio that he had are so intelligent that they don't need specific movements to be told to them to know what to do. Kroos and Modric are two of the most intelligent players I've ever seen. Yeah. Like last season when they beat Liverpool and knocked them out of the Champions League, there was no structure in build-up whatsoever. But Kroos and Modric, one, they're so intelligent. Two, they're very good on the ball that they naturally bypassed Liverpool's press effortlessly. Now, we don't have that. So we need to have specific movement, a specific structure, because these players are limited, and especially the two pivots, especially those. So because Ollie doesn't coach them firsthand and he knows their deficiencies, he must play Maguire, he must play Shaw, because they hide those deficiencies. Because what they have, we lack. And even if they're playing badly, there is no alternative to them. No. And it's a huge mess.
Isn't it just?
And that's why we need. I kept saying we need better coaches. We need coaches that are going to drill them into specific rehearsed movements, because they're limited, and we can't continue with them this way.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, listen, we're coming to we've gone past the hour mark now, actually. So I'll end on this. I'll end on this question with you, Stu. It's been a good show nonetheless. Don't worry about that. But I'll end with this question then. Obviously, a lot of fans want a rotated lineup. A lot of fans want some of these outcasts played in this game to see what happens more than anything. But from what we've seen from our so-called second string team, and obviously they've been out in the middle of nowhere for a long time now. Do you realistically see a team where we rotate heavily and still put out a team that can go toe to toe with Tottenham. I get, on paper, quality wise, it probably could, but a lot of different factors go into it, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Look, the thing is with Tottenham is you don't know which Tottenham's going to turn up. I mean, if you look at the very first game of the season, they played quite a low block against City and beat them on the counter-attack, if you remember. And then all of a sudden, he's gone to a possession-based game, which I can't quite work out why he's done it. And I think most of their matches, they have 60, 70% possession, but actually produce very little in terms of scoring. It's a little bit like us, really. So it's actually a game that's probably made for Ollie Saturday. He's probably looking at it and thinking, I can actually win it. In answer to your question, I'm with the lads, unfortunately, James. I'm sorry to say this. I don't really know what to do for the best. If I was Ollie, I just don't know what to do for the best. I don't know whether to keep the starting 11 that was destroyed on Sunday or make the changes. But Abdel's right and Alan's right. If there's no courage in there, there's no will to win, it doesn't matter who you put out there, Ollie's going to get turned over and, it's going to be even worse for him. There are a couple of changes I would make. You can't change the back four. You can't change De Gea at the moment, although I would say this, and I'm going to, people have been questioning why there's an issue with our defenders when it's the same defence. Just take Varane out the equation for the minute that was pretty much played the bulk of the game last season. And we know why, because Henderson was between the sticks. Now, whether there's communication, I don't know. But fast forward, De Gea has been magnificent this season. So, is there something to be said? Now, Al as a defender and I as a defender will know that one goal can be brilliant at shot stopping, but if he can't command me as a centre half, he can't command his area. Irrespective of whether he's kept us in 6 or 7 games this season, is it the right move? I don't know. But when you look back at De Gea, Maguire, and Lindelof in particular, that trio, it's been dodgy for a long, long time. Now, whether that's communication, I don't know. But anyway, look, I think it was something that needed mentioning.
Someone said this. One of my friends said this. He's like, you have 2 players that start the fires, but they're also the 2 players that put out the fires. And I was like, which 2 players are you talking about? He's like, De Gea and Cristiano Ronaldo. Both of them don't suit your team so badly that they start all sorts of problems for you. But at the same time, they're the ones who are pulling you out of the hairs, because De Gea stops a lot of goals that should be goals, and save your sorry for the word asses by shot stopping. And Cristiano Ronaldo is the guy who will pop up with a goal out of nowhere at the end of a match, But where's the root of the problem? It's these 2. So they start the fire and they put the fire out. I found it funny, but it was very, very, very true. And by the way, Henderson isn't that massively better than De Gea, but the attributes that he has over De Gea will help us a lot, especially in build-up. So the team I would put out against Tottenham definitely doesn't have Greenwood, definitely doesn't have Cristiano Ronaldo, definitely doesn't have De Gea, and I would still keep Fred, by the way, and Scott, because we do need them, despite their deficiencies. And I would take Shaw out because he seems unfit, and I would put Dal out, but not Telles, because Telles is terrible defensively. I will play Tottenham's game. I will be in either a low block or a mid block. But the key in all of it doesn't matter about personnel. You have to be compact. Personnel won't matter if you're not compact. Yeah.
Certainly. Well, there you go. We do have an answer for you. I think you can always rely on Abdul to bail us out when the 3 of us aren't too sure. But yeah, if you have any thoughts on how to set up against Spurs, what needs changing, what needs tweaking, anything to do with the game, get them in the comments. But that brings us to the end of the show. I suppose it's nice to finish on an actual solid point. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, panelists and viewers alike. We held quite a few viewers today, so that's probably a good sign that we were doing something right, I hope. But If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. We've got another video coming out for you tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. But until then, we'll see you next time.